Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about mistakes to avoid for Lightning Strike and also in general, tips and tricks or maybe things I'm thinking about before the league starts. Whenever you're watching this, it's probably this weird time right before the league starts where you're just sitting around, you're just watching random streams and you don't really know what to do. So this is perfect, just some useless ass video to watch in the meantime. That's my specialty, okay? So if you came for Lightning Strike, it's going to be a little bit later in the video. I'll put a timestamp at the start. It's going to be very few, but just a few general observations. Okay, the first one is for the sweaties. A lot of people will be, as always, on softcore, trying to complete everything as fast as possible. Completely ignore the league mechanic, just outpay later, right? You don't have to do the league mechanic, whatever is in there. You can just buy whenever. You just progress, you make money early, and that's that. And don't get me wrong, that will always work. Just realize that we have something very unique this league, which is time-gated content. I personally, whether it's efficient or not, I don't really care that much. I can play for long times. It's kind of the privilege of doing this, right? But I will be doing league mechanic on day 1 and on day 2. I want to set everything up because I don't want to be in a situation where I progressed. I'm really far. I have all these resources, but now I'm sitting here waiting hours or maybe even days to set everything up. We don't know how the whole mechanic is going to work to build your whole camp. And yes, the rewards might be minuscule to whatever you're making when you're absolutely pushing it. But remember that there's at least one thing that you might not be able to engage with at all. And that is number 2, Recombinators. I would highly advise you to watch some of the older videos in terms of what items were possible. You could swap bases, although they did say they nerfed Recombinators. If I understand the Q&A correctly, they mostly mean the mods that were on there, for example, the attribute stacker mods or whatever. But there's still a lot of things that are possible in the game that I don't hear enough people talk about it, and those are going to be some of the chase items. With my favorite being triple Alva gloves. You look at these and you think, that's not possible, and it is. With Synthesis, it is possible. I still remember getting this one, and it was, I think, in week 1. Now, probably not going to be that easy this time around. But if you have any sort of build that can use these gloves, chances are they are not going to be replaceable. So that is a huge thing. So think about stuff like Delve mods, think about stuff like Alva mods, all these things that aren't in the normal drop pool. You can check them out on Craft of Exile and think about how they usually maybe wouldn't combine, but now could combine. Also, and this is especially valuable for, I guess, non-trickster energy shield based builds that will exist quite a bit this league with how the base types have been changed, although the top region of the tree is looking a little bit dry. I'm sure there's going to be some pretty crazy stuff in endgame. You can get mods that you usually couldn't. So that means physical damage reduction and spell suppression. Unless they change that, you can actually swap that over to a base where it usually couldn't occur. This also goes for stuff like attributes. All I'm saying is that if you are planning out your endgame build, get your mind in shape again for what's about to come and what is going to be possible. Number 3, and this one is a little bit riskier because I might be eating my words on this one, is Rage on Hit from Lethal Pride. If this is the first time you heard it, just wait for me to burst your bubble. I don't think this is going to be as good for right side builds as you think. If you are already invested into a Rage on Hit, chances are you're not going to want this. Maybe like a random one from a Lethal Pride. But mostly the builds that use Lethal Pride are the builds that also need the strength. So those are right side builds mostly. So bow builds, this league, also Lightning Strike builds, Motor Strike, whatever, Frostblades. These kind of builds will have a rough time to keep Rage up. What I see a lot is people have 30% more damage in config for Rage. So let's quickly go over that. So if we look at the description of Rage right here, we can see that every Rage grants 1% more. That's like up to 30% unless you scale it. Lose 10 Rage per second if you have not been hit or gained Rage in the last 2 seconds. That can happen quite quickly, especially on high avoidance right side builds. So, yeah, most likely it's going to fall off immediately, and it falls off by 10 per second. So it's going to be way faster than it used to be. And only one hit every 0.5 seconds can cause you to gain Rage. Yeah, especially against single target where you would need that damage the most, is probably not going to be up. Now, your counter might be, well, it's not that much investment, but I literally think you're going to feel almost nothing. And you're also missing out on double damage. Like, the mods on Lethal Pride are not that bad. You're also missing out on double damage, on life and whatnot. And you also have to remember that these jewels are going to be very sought after. So you're not just going to lose whatever, like, the mods that would usually be on there. So let's, for example, say this one was +1 Rage. it would probably be so expensive that you would lose several other mods for the same investment. So I'm just going to throw that out there before you pay 50 Divine or 100 Divines for that perfect lethal Pride with double damage and rage on hit. But we're going to see how it goes. And another thing I want to talk about before going into Lightning Strike is Flesh and Stone. So the aura effect does not scale Flesh and Stone. This doesn't surprise me. This is not like, okay, how surprising? Because otherwise it would have been pretty broken. Okay. So Flesh and Stone's radius is interesting though, because it says you get 20% less damage taken nearby. But it also says up to, right? The 20% is from a 21. Actually, no, it doesn't even scale. I was lying, 19%. Okay, Mark did answer this in the Q&A. So what he says here is that enemies within 1.5 meter of you receive the full effect. 1.5 meter only has the full effect. Then it scales linearly down to nothing at the edge of the area. So let's quickly look at how this AoE would look like. Okay, so this is what I had in my Lightning Strike video. Exactly. So 2.9 meter radius. I have a little bit of extra aura AoE from this one right here. I have a little bit of extra aura AoE from this node right here. Yeah, 12%. So not all that much, but yeah, I could take a little bit more if I really wanted to. But if you're not scaling AoE, this is what would basically look like. So if you're a Lightning Strike character, right, in order to double hit, the enemy would at least have to be here already, because otherwise you're not double hitting. You don't want to stand on top of the enemy. So already that guy is going to, let's say, deal 7% less damage because he's outside the aura. If he was here, he would deal full damage. You just reserve 25% of your reservation for this. And if he just stands a little bit away, you're just going to get absolutely destroyed, right? So every enemy that is outside here just deals full damage. If you are a melee build and you are scaling some kind of AoE for this, it might get more interesting because, for example, let's say the aura was this big, now it would scale outwards from 1.5 a lot more flexible. But if you were, for example, somebody who just removed D-term from their build and they're going something like Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone, which I've seen a few people do. I don't think it's like a terrible setup, but these are all conditionals. That's just what I want to say. So this will depend on how good Flesh and Stone actually is in your build. But enough yapping about random stuff. Let's quickly go over Lightning Strike. I already updated this in my note section. If you're playing Lightning Strike Slayer or you're playing Deadeye or something, maybe there's something interesting in here. I'm going to go over it right now. But some of that is also tailored towards Warden. The most important thing that only affects the Wardens is attack speed is absolutely massive. So let's go to mid game right here. In order to get a good amount of attack speed, you'll have to get it from everywhere. The biggest thing people will do that don't watch this video will be they path out of here. People love doing this, right? And it is correct in endgame most of the time because of cluster jewels, but it isn't for a while. You're getting 16% attack speed here for 2 points. You're probably not going to need the dex. Do not do this too early. If you have space for rare jewels, get attack speed as much as you can. Life attack speed. Life, attack speed with claws, right? Whatever you can get, it will make your build feel a lot better. And that's even more true because you want to run multi-strike. And multi-strike is going to feel like ass if you don't have attack speed. Now, don't use Lightning Strike of Arcing on the Warden. Lightning Strike of Arcing, if you want to play that skill, I would highly recommend to go Deadeye. I think it is great on Deadeye. It's built pretty different. You use certain medium cluster jewels to scale your damage. That is a completely different. If you get this randomly from somewhere, don't just slap it on. You start with no extra projectiles, so it's going to feel pretty bad. If you had enough damage to actually put in GMP and stuff like that, then sure, but that's way down the line. Now, don't use 4 projectile Lightning Strike. 6 is okay, but 4 has a really weird shape. If you want to know more about that, I'll also talk about that in my main guide. But the reason is it kind of has like a V shape where the projectiles sometimes not even hit the enemy right in front of you. 6 is better because it's more together. So if you see, for example, I have a Fan of Blades cluster, that is why. How to position is in the guide video. I explained that. I'll just want to point that out already for anybody. But most of the Lightning Strike videos I've seen have that included. This might be a little bit of a confusion point for some people who didn't play Lightning Strike back in the day. Also, pebbles or objects. You're not going to summon your projectiles. That is one of the sacrifices you take with playing Lightning Strike. It is annoying, but it also is what it is. Trinity, I explained, right? Tinctures, in general, you should be using one. You don't need to spec into it. I spec'd into it in my endgame guide, but you can spec into it. You don't need this. Only if you're ranged, you need to actually spec into any of this. Just put it on. Like, for example, here I have this trinket. I didn't tick it because I don't know about the uptime, but 100% LE damage, some crit multi. I'm probably going to change that to attack speed, actually, now that I think about it. But this is the worst a tincture could be, right? And in endgame, if you spec into it, you're going to get a ton of increased effect. Quality actually multiplies everything that the trinket does, as we now know from the Q&A. But even if you aren't invested at all into it, if you need extra damage, you can press this, add whatever you need, and it's going to do you well. I already have pretty good unreserved mana because my Lightning Strike kind of costs a lot relatively. So I have 128 unreserved mana. The mana burn, you're not even going to feel it. But yeah, tinctures might be broken. Check back for further videos. I'll definitely make a video on some tincture mods that are maybe out there. Once again, I have some tinctures in the endgame guide, but Strength Int is annoying. Look out for it wherever you can. That is very specific to my guide. The returning projectile enchant on Claw, I don't think I have to remind you because that's what most people are hyped for. But if that actually exists on Lightning Strike is going to be one of the strongest skills. It will already be very strong, but that is like, that would be the cherry on top. If you're Fizz conversion, and that goes for a few versions of the build, they also have these notes. Just make sure that you only convert 99% so you can actually apply bleed. And then I guess one more important thing is ailment immune maps might screw your freezes over. We don't exactly know how the Hoarfrost is going to work with ailment avoid. Like if you would activate a freeze with Hoarfrost stacks, do those still get removed? Now, some say obviously yes, some say obviously no. We don't know. So that might make ailment or like close to ailment immune maps pretty annoying, especially if you have map effect. And yeah, Dark Marionettes, a lot of people have been saying, why do I even include this? It's like, if I don't include a free aura, I know it's annoying to set up, but come on, it's a free aura. A Wrath early can give you like 30% more damage. In endgame, for example, the current endgame version, which once again, is going to change multiple times, I'll probably cut some of that damage because depending on what content I'm going to run, I'm not going to need it, but still, I mean, it's still important to keep in mind, and this is something you should be looking out for ASAP. But yeah, that's about it. If you guys want to chill on stream, I'll be online whenever the league drops, probably 2-3 hours before, over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. I'm gonna be honest, I might take this league a lot more casual than I usually do. Maybe even not reroll 5-6 days in. Maybe just like chill in town, build some stuff. I don't know how the league's gonna pan out, but I really like the vibes so far. We're gonna have to see. I'm super stoked. PoE really needs a win after last league, so I hope that's what we get. And yeah, wish everybody a happy league start, whatever you play. And yeah, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.